Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the October 17th, 2020 edition of Pro Wrestling Throwdown, and we are talking about the draft. Last week we covered SmackDown's round of the draft. This week we get to cover Raw's, and here we go.
Night 2, fight!
Just to hit you with the list. Going to Raw, The Fiend. Called that one?
Yep.
The Viper, Randy Orton. The Queen, Charlotte Flair. The Monster Among Men, Braun Strowman. Matt Riddle, the charismatic enigma, Jeff Hardy. Retribution, why you would draft a group that's out to destroy, that doesn't make any sense. Keith Lee, Alexa Bliss, Elias, Lacey Evans, Sheamus, called that one. Nikki Cross, called that one. R-Truth, Dabba-Kato, Titus O'Neil.
Wasn't aware he still had a contract.
I wasn't aware. Yeah, what the fuck's he been doing?
And not been making millions of dollars, I bet.
Millions of dollars. Peyton Royce, Tozawa, Lana, Riddick Moss, Arturo Ruiz? I don't know.
Ruiz.
And Eric of the Viking Raiders.
Yes.
So, that, along with the last week's list, I'll run down that real quick, is the complete Raw roster, including Drew McIntyre, Asuka, The Hurt Business, AJ Styles, Naomi, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Ricochet, Mandy Rose, The Miz, John Morrison, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Dana Brooke, Angel Garza, Tucker, Humberto Carrillo, and Drew Gulak. SmackDown.
Raw roster doesn't look too bad, but let's get about the SmackDown.
Doesn't look bad at all. SmackDown, we have Bayley, the Street Profits, Daniel Bryan.
Called that one, by the way.
Yes. Kevin Owens, Lars Sullivan, King Corbin, Sami Zayn, the Artist Collective of Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, Apollo Crews, Carmella, Aleister Black, called that one, Natalya, Zelina Vega,
Called that one.
Tamina Snuka, and Billie Kay. Combined with last week's picks, which were Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, Jey Uso, Rey, and Dominic Mysterio, Big E, Otis, Kalisto, and Murphy. Is your complete
solid SmackDown
roster.
I think, honestly, it's really hard to say that Raw didn't get the better of the draft.
Yeah.
Because they got more draft picks. But honestly, I think SmackDown has a really solid roster.
I think SmackDown has the workhorse roster. Guys like Buddy Murphy, guys like Aleister Black, guys like Seth Rollins, especially Roman Reigns. We're going to see a lot of matches we've never seen before, which is what the draft is supposed to do.
Correct.
So I'm really excited for SmackDown. Raw,
it almost looks like they're trying to rebuild Raw from the ground up.
Speaking of Raw, you know what we didn't cover in the news?
The Underground being canceled.
They canceled Raw Underground, so get ready for a full 3 hours of absolute nothing happening.
Well, to be honest, with the Raw Underground thing, even if they wanted to continue to do it, through the draft, they drafted away most of the Raw Underground guys to SmackDown anyway. Dabba-Kato, or Ruiz, Riddick Moss.
Yeah.
I mean, once they drafted them away, who you got?
Yeah. And then you look at other draft picks for Raw, like Titus O'Neil.
Lucha House Party was kind of fell on deaf ears for me.
And I'll tell you what, they didn't even really shake up the tag team scene as much as they could have, because they pretty much drafted every SmackDown tag team to Raw and every Raw tag team to SmackDown, with the exception of the Artist Collective.
What I did find interesting is the heat that Riddle and Rollins supposedly have over the girls. How Rollins said that he didn't care what brand Riddle went to, they would never work each other, and this, that, and that.
Yeah.
And then Jeff Hardy on Raw announces that they're going to have a triple threat tag team match, and when they come back from commercial,
it's just a triple threat match.
Makes you think.
Makes you wonder if Seth Rollins
no, absolutely not.
Not going to happen today, Jeff Hardy.
Makes sense, though, and also that they were switched in the brand draft.
Not today, Jess Harvey. Not today.
Or your brother, Max.
Seth Rollins.
But the draft, all in all, there was some hits. There was a lot of misses. I'm still not happy about the New Day. Probably we'll talk about that for months to come.
Well, let's see what happens first.
I hope they don't ruin Big E on SmackDown.
I don't think they're in any fear of doing that just yet.
Good, because if they do, things happen. I have connections.
He doesn't.
Nick Gage and a couple of his ski mask wearing friends will show up at the front door, but he won't know anything about it because he won't be there.
You know, I'm looking on this list. I'm trying to remember, where did Matt Riddle end up?
Raw.
So Matt Riddle's going to Raw.
As Rollins went to SmackDown.
That's a shame because I was really interested in seeing a Matt Riddle-Aleister Black match at some point.
Yeah, I think that the idea with Matt Riddle is him and Jeff doing that tag team match on SmackDown is to tag team match. I'm all right with it. It is what it is. Riddle, I think, had better. He's going to fall in the wayside on Raw. SmackDown, you could have made him
a singles guy,
a
big
singles guy, and a push.
Yeah.
Raw, with all of the talent that Raw got with the Braun and Randy Orton, I represent. He's just going to fall to the wayside. He's going to be another guy on the roster.
I don't see it working to Matt Riddle's benefit of being. Of
course,
on
to
Raw.
be honest, the last 2 months on SmackDown, he's been nothing but another guy on the roster.
Well, and the other fold to that is SmackDown drafted a lot of talent, and there's a lot of talent I want to see, but I don't know how we're going to see as many of the names as we do in just the 2 hours they have.
Well, and not only that, SmackDown drafted a lot of already established talent.
Yeah,
there's no room for improvement on many of the
right. There are already a lot of great
with the exception of course, Murphy and Dominic Mysterio, who are breakout stars.
It seems to me that Raw, while drafting some major players like Drew, like Orton, like The Fiend, but we've seen a lot of that already. We've seen Braun. Yeah, we've got more foils for Drew, but eventually, Drew's going to lose the title.
Yes.
That's going to happen regardless.
To Randy Orton.
Let's hope. But it didn't seem like they had a lot of picks to build for something afterward.
You've got to have a lot of people. Here's the deal. Randy Orton's going to win the title. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be him and Edge at Mania.
Let's hope.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
If, of course, with the injury, if that takes place, that's where they're going with it.
Yeah.
What they've done with Braun Strowman and the Fiend, is they've brought them in because when you take the title off Drew, you don't want Drew to lose that heat. So what you're going to do is you're going to put him against Braun Strowman. Yeah. You're going to put him against the Fiend. You're going to put him against all these legitimate monster characters.
Yeah.
So when WWE decides, we'll put the title back on Drew, he hasn't lost any steam. He's been a predominant player in the big match scene. That's why they kept Keith Lee on Raw, by the way. It makes perfect sense. And seriously, I want Keith Lee and the Fiend. That's what I want.
Where did Shorty G end up? I know he ended up getting drafted.
Shorty G ended up on SmackDown.
So Shorty G's going to SmackDown. Yes. Mickey James and Andrade went undrafted.
Andrade, I think, due to the elective surgery that he had take place, Mickey James, her nose is broken and was going to be off TV for a couple weeks anyway.
We'll figure out where they're going to go.
But from what I understand,
I imagine they're both going.
What I understand, I was about to say that insiders think that don't count on seeing them switch brands. They're coming back to Raw.
Yeah,
especially with Charlotte Flair being drafted to Raw and WWE with their stance on not splitting up real life couples.
Yeah,
because as you notice, Aleister Black went to SmackDown, so does Zelina.
Yeah,
they
don't want another Edge Lita situation.
Mysterio's daughter went to SmackDown, so did Murphy. It makes sense.
I do find it interesting that Raw now has both of the big groups in the Hurt Business and Retribution, which they had beforehand.
Well, Retribution as big foil was the Hurt Business. So you're keeping that storyline because let's face it, Raw gave away, like a lot of people have been producing, the three biggest storylines in WWE has all went to SmackDown.
Yeah.
Other than, of course, Orton and McIntyre.
And now that Apollo's gone, do you think we're going to see some more recruiting on behalf of the Hurt Business to a guy to maybe Ricochet? Try to get him in the group now?
Not after what happened on Raw with Ricochet doing the whole I'm going to wrestle you one more time. If I lose, I join the Hurt Business. But if I win, you leave me alone.
Right. And
it was agreed to. And then he pulled the Eddie Guerrero chair trick and got them disqualified to get what he wanted. Yeah. No, I don't. I do see him probably joining eventually down the line. Because who else you got? Let's be honest. Unless you decide, hey, you know who would be good in the Hurt Business? And I agree with this 100%. Motherfucking Keith Lee. Bring Keith Lee in on the Hurt Business. You want to talk about Hurt Business? Talk about Keith Lee.
AJ Styles going back to Raw now that Heyman's on SmackDown.
Right.
Just continuously. I'm not fucking working with him. Put me on the other show.
Another guy that would work really well with McIntyre.
Oh, yeah. AJ's
or Edge. Or Orton.
Yeah. I am Edge and AJ Styles. Take my money.
Yes.
Take his money. Take his money.
Well, you don't want to take Max.
Take her money. Take it all.
You got to reach. You got to reach around Max. The other half of Max gets it right. So.
Guys, that's basically it for the draft. Let us know what you thought about the draft, the results, who do you like on Raw, who do you like on SmackDown. Leave us an email at prowrestlingthrowdown@gmail.com.
Who do you like on Raw? Who do you like on SmackDown? And why is it Randy Orton?
Right. Send us an email at prowrestlingthrowdown@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/prowrestlingthrowdown. And as always, like, subscribe, and leave us a comment down below. Stay tuned for This Week in Review coming up next.
Support single mothers.